If you're a custodial supervisor at a local high school, you know that cleanliness is key, and that the best place to get cleaning supplies is from Grainger. Grainger helps you stay fully stocked on the products you trust, from paper towels and disinfectants to floor scrubbers. Plus, you can rely on Grainger for easy reordering, so you never run out of what you need. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Your kids could get free or low-cost health coverage from Medicaid or CHIP. Even if you've applied before, they may be eligible now. Kids up to age 19 are covered for checkups, vaccines, dentist visits, hospital care, and more. And if they already have Medicaid or CHIP, remember to renew every year. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Welcome, Wapham crew, guys, gals, ghouls, friends, fiends, and foes. Let's climb aboard the mothership, secure our tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. I'm your host, TessaTNT, and we are broadcasting live from the Mile High Clubhouse tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in to my podcast and coming to hang out with me. It's an honor and a pleasure to have you here with me this evening. And I just wanted to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you, wherever you may be out there beyond the Omniverse, and welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. If you want to listen in your free time, whether you're working it, or working out, you can listen to me at Spreaker.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you don't mind, please mosey on over to our YouTube channel, subscribe, like any video that you have watched or listened to, and leave us a comment, whether good or bad, guests you'd like to have on, things you'd like to see or hear us have on our show. It would be awesome to hear from you and get your input on that. So we're going to do story time tonight, and then tomorrow night we're going to do some trippy TikToks. We have some guests in the works, but we're not quite there yet, so we are working on that. Alright, so we're gonna hop back into Reddit. And this is a Reddit ghost story, and this is by user expensive-falcon4186. My partner and I are sick with a cold and have not been sleeping well. He was recently moved into my house with kids and I. We hear the routine potty in the night by my 6-year-old, who sometimes goes back to his bed and sometimes comes crawling into mine. So his feet hit the floor with his loft bed loud, scamper to the potty, we hear the potty lid go up and hit the top of the pot. Then nothing. My partner grumpily mumbles that, you know he's coming in here next, right? And I sort of chew him out. Yeah, he's a little kid. I'm his mom. Sometimes that's what happens. So we both wait to hear his feet to see whether he will go back to bed or come looking for me. After a few minutes, to head off a scene, I decide to go up and go escort my little guy back to his room and snuggle him in. But I get up and he's fast asleep already. Weird. He's warm, hasn't moved. It wasn't him up. Also, the toilet seat is down, which he is pretty much allergic to, and we never heard him go back. So it wasn't him. The cat was confirmed to be outside, so we were just so stumped. We both heard the feet to the toilet and the toilet lid go up. So weird. That is weird. Glitch in the Matrix by user Mike_is_the_rookie. Has anyone seen their own doppelganger? I was at a grocery store in a city I was just visiting. I turned down an aisle and saw myself from behind. Same hair, same jacket, same shoes. The person turned the corner before I could say anything. When I followed, the aisle was completely empty. It was a dead end with no exits. I've never been so creeped out. Has anyone had something like this happen? What did you do? I've never seen my own doppelganger, but other people have, which is creepy enough if you ask me. Alright, this is by, well, first we're going to Reddit No Sleep, and by user Jamal Frank. The company sent me a cure for my father's grief. When the bottle ran out, your final automated message told me to kill him. My life has been on hold for a year. A year ago, I was supposed to be moving out, starting my own life. I had an apartment lined up, job waiting, then my mother died, and my world, along with my father's, simply stopped. She was the sun in his sky. They were one of those couples you see in old movies, completely, utterly devoted to each other. When she died suddenly from an aneurysm, the light just went out of him. The grief was a physical thing, a crushing heavy blanket that smothered our entire house. First is what you'd expect: crying, a refusal to talk about her, or an inability to talk about anything else. He stopped going to work. He stopped seeing his friends. I made the decision to stay. I couldn't leave him like that. He was my dad. I put my own life on pause, telling myself it would just be for a few months, until he got back on his feet. But he never did. The grief didn't lessen. It metastasized. It started with him not eating. He just pushed the food around his plate. Then he stopped getting out of bed. A vibrant, strong man who had taught me how to ride a bike and build a bookshelf was replaced by a hollow-eyed ghost who just laid there, staring at the ceiling, wasting away. We went to doctors, so many doctors. They ran every test imaginable. Physically, they said he was fine. There was nothing wrong with him. psychological, one of them told me, with a detached, clinical sympathy. Severe prolonged grief reaction. He needs therapy, maybe medication. We tried that. The therapist would come to the house and my dad would just stare at them, his eyes empty, refusing to speak a single word. He wouldn't take the pills. He was just giving up. He was letting himself die, following her into the dark. It's been a year now. He's a skeleton, a fragile collection of bones under a thin, papery skin. He gets his nutrients through an IV drip that I learned how to set up myself. He hasn't spoken a word in 6 months. I spend my days changing his sheets, cleaning him, watching his chest rise and fall with shallow, ragged breaths, and just waiting. Waiting for the end. My own life has become a ghost. I have remembered dream of a future I was supposed to have. Then 3 weeks ago, the phone rang. It was a private number. I almost didn't answer. Hello? Good morning, a cheerful, professional-sounding woman's voice said. Am I speaking with the caretaker of? She said my father's full name. Cold knot of unease tightened in my stomach. Who is this? I asked. I'm calling from a private biomedical research firm, she said, her voice smooth as silk. We specialize in unique solutions for profound psychological trauma. We've been reviewing your father's medical case, and we believe we can help. I felt a surge of anger. My father's medical case? That's confidential. How did you get that? This is illegal. I'm reporting you. I understand your concern, she said, her tone never wavering, and I do apologize for the unorthodox nature of this call. Our methods of data acquisition are proprietary. But please, before you hang up, just consider your father. Prognosis is not good, is it? Doctors have given up. They're just managing his decline. He's going to die. You know that. We're offering you a chance, a cure. Her words cut through my anger like a scalpel. She was right. He was dying. I was just his hospice nurse, waiting for the inevitable. What kind of cure? I asked, my voice a hoarse whisper. Our treatment is based on the principle of sensory anchoring, she explained. We believe that in cases of extreme grief, the psyche becomes untethered. It needs a familiar, powerful anchor to pull it back to reality. We can create that anchor, and as our treatment is still in the final trial phase, we would be happy to provide it to you completely free of charge. Free. A cure. It sounded too good to be true. It sounded like a scam. But I looked through the doorway at the skeletal figure lying still and silent in the dim light of the bedroom, and the desperation, a feeling I had been living with for so long, won out over my skepticism. What do I have to do? It's a very simple process, the woman said. We just need a biological sample from the object of his grief, your mother, something she had close contact with, something that would retain a strong personal essence. A hairbrush is ideal, a piece of well-worn jewelry, a favorite article of clothing. It was morbid, it was ghoulish, but I was beyond caring. And what do I do with it? She gave me an address, a P.O. box in another state, and told me to mail the item there. That was it. Once we receive the sample, we can synthesize the anchor. You should receive the treatment within a week. That night, I went into my mother's closet for the first time since she died. I had kept her room exactly as she had left it, a perfect heartbreaking time capsule. The air was thick with her scent, a faint mix of her favorite perfume and something that was just her. I opened her jewelry box. On the top, lying on a bed of velvet, was her old, silver-backed hairbrush. I could still see a few of her long, dark hairs tangled in the bristles. My hand was shaking as I picked it up. It felt like a grave desecration. I put it in a padded envelope and mailed it the next day. A week later, a small, unmarked cardboard box arrived. There was no return address. Inside, nestled in a bed of black foam, was a single, small, elegant perfume bottle. It was made of a dark violet-colored glass with a simple silver atomizer.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
There was no label. Tucked alongside it was a small folded piece of paper with a single line of instructions printed in a clean, sterile font. Administer 1 spray into the air near the subject once per day. That was it. I opened the bottle, my curiosity overriding my unease. I sprayed a tiny amount onto my wrist. The scent that bloomed in the air was beautiful. It was a complex floral with notes I couldn't quite place, and underneath it, there was something else. A warmth, a softness, a scent that was so deeply, achingly familiar it made my chest tighten. It was my mother. It wasn't just her perfume. It was her. The scent of her skin after she'd been working in the garden. The faint smell of the vanilla she used in her baking. Very essence of her presence. It was all there, perfectly and possibly recreated in this little bottle. It was a liquid memory. I went into my father's room. He was lying there, the same as always, his eyes open but seeing nothing. I held the bottle a few feet from his face and, with a trembling hand, I pressed the atomizer. The fine, fragrant mist settled in the air around him, and his eyes focused. It happened instantly. The vacant, empty stare was gone. His eyes, for the first time in a year, locked onto mine. A flicker of recognition, of confusion. He took a breath, a deep, rattling breath that was stronger than any I had heard him take in months. "Son," he whispered, his voice a dry, cracking rasp from disuse. Tears streamed down my face. I couldn't speak. I just nodded. I had a terrible dream," he said, his eyes scanning the room. Where's your mother?" It was the most painful question he could have asked, but it was a question. He was back. The next few weeks were a miracle, a resurrection. Every morning, I would give him a single spray of the perfume, and every day he got stronger. He started eating solid food again. He sat up. He started walking, at first with a walker, then on his own. The color returned to his face. He gained weight. The hollow-eyed ghost was gone. replaced by my father. He cried. He apologized over and over for the year I had lost, for the burden he had been. We talked. We mourned my mother together, properly for the first time. Our house, which had been a tomb, was filled with life again. I was so full of a profound, grateful joy. The strange company, the ghoulish methods, it didn't matter. They had given me my father back. But as the initial euphoria faded, I started to notice the new routine that had formed. Perfume was the linchpin of his existence. He couldn't function without it. He would wake up in the morning, groggy and disoriented, his eyes holding a trace of that old vacant look. He would be listless, confused. Then I would administer the spray. The effect was immediate. His eyes would clear, his posture would straighten, and he would be himself again. It was like winding up a clockwork man every morning. He was completely, utterly dependent on it. It was an addiction, but it was a life-saving one, or so I thought. Yesterday morning I picked up the bottle. It felt light. I gave it a shake. It was almost empty. There was maybe 1-2 sprays left. A cold, hard knot of panic formed in my stomach. I had tried calling the company's number before just to thank them, but it had always gone to a disconnected tone. I gave my dad his morning spray. I had to tell him. "Dad," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, the medicine, it's almost gone." The color drained from his face. The cheerful, recovered man I had been living with for the past month vanished. Replaced by a stranger, his eyes went wide with a raw animal panic. "No," he whispered. No, that can't be. I need it. I need her." "It's okay," I said, trying to soothe him. "You're better now. You're strong. You don't need it anymore." "You don't understand," he roared, his voice suddenly full of a terrifying strength. He grabbed my arm, his grip like a vice. "I can't lose her again. I can't." He was a different person. This wasn't grief. This was a raw, desperate, violent need, a junkie's rage. He spent the rest of the day in a state of agitated, paranoid terror, pacing the house, constantly asking me if I'd found more. This morning I gave him the last spray. He calmed down instantly, but the moment was bittersweet. I knew that in 24 hours the monster would be back. I spent all day trying the company's number over and over. Finally, someone picked up. It wasn't a person. It was a cold, automated female voice. "Thank you for calling," the voice said, its tone flat and detached. "Due to a recent government investigation and the cessation of our operations, this company is now permanently closed. We are no longer able to provide our services or products." My heart sank. "No, please," I whispered at the recording. "If you are a former client," the voice continued, "and your treatment supply has been depleted, we sincerely apologize for any inconvenience. We are unable to synthesize any further doses. It has been noted in our late-stage trials that discontinuing the treatment can result in acute psychological distress and unpredictable aggressive behavior in the subject. The sensory anchor becomes a psychosomatic necessity. The subject will not recover. Their decline will be rapid and irreversible." Recording paused for a beat. "We strongly advise you to secure your own safety. If you are unable to contain a subject, our final recommendation is euthanasia. We are sorry for your loss. Have a nice day. The line went dead. I'm writing this now from my bedroom. I have the door barricaded with my dresser. My father is in the living room, or the thing that used to be my father is in the living room. Perfume wore off about an hour ago. I can hear him. He's destroying the place. I hear the crash of furniture, the shattering of glass, and I hear his voice screaming. He's not screaming my name, he's screaming hers. He's screaming for his wife, for her sin.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
For the anchor that is no longer there. A few minutes ago, he started throwing himself against my bedroom door. The wood is splintering. He's stronger than I could have imagined. This isn't grief. It's something else. The cure didn't just bring him back. It twisted him into something that cannot live without the object of his grief. The recording's final words are echoing in my head. Our final recommendation is euthanasia. Kill him? Kill my own father? I don't know what to do. Please, they'll just see a sick, violent old man. We'll take him to a psychiatric hospital. He could hurt someone. He could hurt himself. He's in so much pain. Pain so much worse than the quiet fading he was in before. Is it the merciful thing to do? The banging on the door is getting louder. The wood is cracking. He's going to get in soon. I don't have much time. What do I do? What, in God's name, do I do? I do not know. Somebody underneath is saying, hold on. Is it possible OP is lying to us? I'm very sorry for everything he has been through and wish him the best. However, the story kind of sounds like what a broken mind might create to cover up his own breakdown from the culmination of his mother's death and father's slow decline. The father's smashing of the house could be a cover for his own destruction after he gave his father the final mercy. Everything now is just his brain's way of coming to terms with what he had to do, twisting it into a matter of self-defense. This would also explain why he wouldn't want to call the cops. Something in his mind knows that he really has been living with his father's decaying body. In fact, even the perfume could be the cover, the encroaching smell of decay, and its emptying is symbolic of his inability to keep hiding the truth. Dead Rotten Stars says, you could be onto something here. Severe caregiver burnout can cause serious mental health episodes if it is not treated. Poor OP and his dad. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is a really good, scary bedtime story. Scary Stories is by user trash_Tia. Murder is legal in my small town, but I am yet to kill someone. Murder was legal in our town. I grew up seeing it. At 8 years old, I watched a man walk into our local cafe while I drank my peanut butter chocolate milkshake and killed 2 people dead. There was no malice in his eyes, no hatred. He was just a normal guy who smiled at the waitress and winked at me. Mom told me to keep drinking my milkshake, and I did, licking away the excess whipped cream while the bodies were carried out and the pooling red was cleaned from the floor. I could still see flecks of white in the red and my stomach twisted. But I didn't feel scared. I had no reason to be. Nobody was screaming or crying. The man who had shot them sat down to eat a burger and fries, not blinking an eye. That was my first experience seeing death. With no rules forbidding murder, you would think a town would tear itself apart. That is not what happened. Murder was legal, yes, but it didn't happen every day. It happened when people had the urge. Mom explained it to me when I was old enough to understand. The urge was a phenomenon that had been affecting the townspeople long before I was born, and there was no real way to stop it, so it didn't stop. Mom told me she killed her first person at the age of 17, her math teacher. There was no reason or motive. Mom said she just woke up one day and wanted to kill him. That specific killing became more of a bedtime story to lull me to sleep. I didn't like her smile when she told me about her killing. Sometimes I got scared she was going to murder me too. Growing up, I was constantly on edge. Every day I woke up and pressed my hand to my forehead, asking myself the same question. Did I want to kill anyone? Those thoughts blossomed into paranoia when I wasn't sure what I was feeling. It's not like I didn't know what it was like. Dad taught me how to use a knife and how to properly hold a weapon, and Mom gave me lessons on severing body parts. Both of them wanted me to follow through with the urge when it inevitably hit me. I wanted to fit in. When I started middle school, our neighbors were caught killing and cannibalizing their children, turning them into bone broth. I knew both of the kids, Clay and Clara. Played with them in their yard and ate cookies with them. Clara told me she wanted to be a nurse when she grew up, and Clay used to tug on my pigtails to get my attention. They were like siblings to me. No matter what my parents said or my teachers, my gut still twisted at the thought of my neighbors doing something like that. Days after the cops arrived, I saw Mrs. Jensen watering her plants, but when I looked closer, there was no water. She was just holding an empty hose over her prize roses. I stood on my tiptoes peering over our fence. Mrs. Jensen? I am okay, Ellie. Her voice didn't sound okay. Are you sure? I asked. I pointed at the hose, grasped in her hand. You forgot to turn your water on. I know. Mrs. Jensen. I took a deep breath before I could stop myself. Did you like killing Clay and Clara? Why, yes, she hummed. Of course I did. I nodded. But didn't you love them? She didn't reply for a moment before seemingly snapping out of it and turning to me with a bright smile. Too many teeth. That was the first time I started to question the urge. It was supposed to make you feel good, acting like a relief, a weight lifted from your chest. Killing another human being was exactly what the people in our town needed. But what about killing their families and children? Did it really make them feel good? Look at my neighbor. I couldn't see the joy my mom described. In fact, I couldn't see anything. Her expression was the kind of blank that scared me. It was oblivion staring back. stripped of real human emotion. Mrs. Jensen's smile stretched across her lips like she could sense my discomfort. I noticed she had yet to clean her hands. Mrs. Jensen's fingernails were still stained a scary shade of red. Instead of replying, the woman moved toward my fence in slow, stumbling strides. She was dragging herself, like moving caused her pain, agony I couldn't understand. It was exactly what my mother had insisted didn't exist when killing. Pain. Humanity. All the adults told us we would not feel those things when killing. We wouldn't feel regret or contempt. We would just feel good. It was a release, like cold water coming over us. We would never feel better in our lives than when we were killing, and our first would be something special. When Mrs. Jensen's fingers, still slick with her children's blood, wrapped around the wooden fence, I found myself paralyzed. Her manic grin twisted and contorted into a silent wail, and once vacant eyes popped open like she was seeing me for the very first time. "I want to go home," she whispered, squeezing the wooden fence until her own fingers were bleeding. "Can you tell them to let me go home? I would like to see my children. Right now, do you hear me?" Mrs. Jensen wasn't looking at me. Instead, her gaze was glued to thin air. She was crying, screaming at something only she could see, and for a moment, I wondered if ghosts were real. I twisted around to see if there were any ghosts, specifically the ones of her children, but there was nothing. Just fall leaves spiraling in the air in pretty waves. "Mrs. Jensen is sick," Mom told me once I was sitting at the dinner table, eating melted ice cream. It tasted like barf running down my throat. I didn't see Mrs. Jensen after that. Well, I did. She looked different, however. Not freakishly different, though I did notice her hair color had changed. I remembered it being a deep shade of brown, and when my neighbor returned with an even wider smile, it was more of a blondish white. When I questioned this, Mom told me it was a makeover. The urge affected people in different ways, and with Mrs. Jensen, after having her come down, she had decided on a change. Mom's words were supposed to be reassuring, adding that there was no reason to be scared of the urge. But I didn't want to be like Mrs. Jensen and have a mental breakdown over my killing. I wanted to be like Mom and have a glass of wine and laugh over the sensation of taking a life. Mrs. Jensen was my first real glimpse into the negativity of killing. Dying, for example, wasn't feared. From a young age, we had been taught that it was a vital part of life, and dying meant finding peace. When I first started high school, I expected killing to happen. Puberty was when the urge fully blossomed. Weapons were allowed, but only outside of classes. In other words, under no circumstances must we kill each other in class. The hallways were a free-for-all. I saw attempts during my freshman year, but no real killing. Annalise Duval was infamously known as the junior girl who rejected the urge and was thrown out of school. Struck with the stomach flu on the day of her attempted killing, I only knew the story from word of mouth. Apparently, the girl had attempted to kill her mother at home, failed, and then bounded into school, screaming about laughter in the walls and people whispering in her head. Obviously, my classmate was labeled insane, and judging from her nosebleed, the girl's body had ultimately rejected the urge, and her brain was going haywire. Nosebleeds were a common side effect. I heard stories from kids saying there was blood everywhere, all over her hands and face, smeared under her chin. She had been screaming for help, but nobody dared go near her, like rejection was contagious. Annalise survived. I still saw her on my daily bike ride to school. She was always sitting cross-legged in front of the forest with her eyes closed like she was praying. The rumor was, after being thrown out by her parents, the girl wandered around aimlessly, muttering about whispering people and laughter in her head. It was obvious her rejection had seriously affected her mental state, but I did feel sorry for her. On my 14th birthday, I confused a swimming stomach and cramps for the urge, which turned out to be my first period. I remember biking my way home, witnessing a man cut off another man's head with an axe. It's funny. I thought I would be desensitized to seeing human remains. I saw the passion in the man's face as he swung the axe, digging in real hard, chopping right through bone and not stopping, even when intense red splattered his face and clothes. He didn't stop until the head hit the ground, and that sent my stomach creeping into my throat. Then it was the vacancy in his eyes, the twitching smile as he held the axe like a prize. Part of me wanted to stay to see if he had a similar reaction to Mrs. Jensen. I wanted to know if he regretted what he had done, but once I met his gaze and his grin widened, the toe of his boot kicking the guy's motionless body, I turned away and pedaled faster, my eyes starting to water. It wasn't long before my lunch was inching its way up my throat and I was abandoning my bike on the side of the road, choking up undigested mac and cheese onto the steaming tarmac. I didn't tell Mom about the man, and more importantly, about my odd reaction to his killing. I wasn't supposed to feel sick to my stomach. Murder was normal. I wasn't going to get in trouble for it, so why did seeing it make me sick? I had been taught as a little kid that visceral reactions were normal, and it was okay to be scared of killing and murder. However, what our brains told us was right wasn't always the truth. Our teacher held up a teddy bear and stabbed into its stuffing with a carving knife. We all cried out until the teacher told us that the bear didn't care about dying. In fact, it was ready to find peace, and it didn't hurt him. In other words, we had to ignore what our minds told us was bad. Mom told me I would definitely start having conflicting feelings before my first killing, that it was nothing to worry about. I did worry, though. I started to wonder if I was going to become the next Annalise Duval. Maybe the two of us would become friends, sharing our delusions together. My 17th birthday came and went, and still no sign of the urge. I noticed Mom was starting to grow impatient. She had a routine of coming to check my temperature every morning, regardless of whether I felt sick or not. "How are you feeling?" I couldn't help but notice Mom's smile was fake. She dumped my breakfast on a tray in front of me, and when I risked nibbling on a slice of toast, she dropped the bombshell. "Elle, you're almost 18 years old," she said. I noticed her hands were clenched into fists. "Do you feel anything?" I considered lying, though then I would have to kill someone, and without the urge, I was pretty sure I wouldn't be able to do that.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
"I don't know," I answered honestly, propping myself up on my pillows. Most of the kids in my class... She cut me off with a frustrated hiss. Yes, I know. They have all killed someone, and you haven't. Her eyes narrowed. People are starting to notice, Elle. She spoke through a smile that was definitely a grimace. And when people start to notice, they get suspicious. I've been on the phone with 3 different doctors this morning, and all of them want to book you in for an MRI, just to make sure things are normal. MRI? I almost choked on the apple I had been chewing. Yes, Mom sighed. I can't ignore that things aren't abnormal. You are 17 years old and haven't had one urge to kill. The minimum for your age is 1 kill, she said. Minimum, Elle. You haven't killed anyone. And when I bring it up, you change the subject. I changed the subject because she started asking if I wanted to practice. I wasn't sure what practice meant, but from the slightly manic look in her eye, my mom wasn't talking about dolls or teddy bears. It was normal to practice killing. There were even people who volunteered to be targets at the local scrapyard. Most of them were old people. Joey Cunningham started training to kill when he was 12 years old. 5 years on, Joey had accumulated a total of 14 kills. He never failed to remind everyone in almost every class. I could taste the apple growing sour in the back of my mouth. Mom was just trying to help, and it's not like I was doing this intentionally. The idea of going to the scrapyard and killing people, even if they gave me permission to, wasn't appealing in the slightest. I'm okay, I said, and when Mom's eyes darkened, I followed that up with, I have spare time after class, so... I meant to finish with maybe, but the word tangled in my mouth when I took a chunk out of the apple, then it struck. Throbbing pain, which was enough to send my brain spinning off its axis. For a moment, my vision feathered, and I was left blinking at my mother, who had become more silhouette than real person. I was aware of the apple dropping out of my hand, but I couldn't think straight. Pain came in waves, exploding in my mouth. When I was sure I could move without my head spinning, I slammed my hand over my mouth, instinctively to nurse the pain. Except that just made it worse. Fuck. Had I chipped my tooth? I blinked through blurry vision. I knew my mom was there, but so was something else. As if my reality was splintering open, another seeping through, I suddenly had no idea where I was. And the familiar feeling of fear started to creep its way up my spine. The thing was, though, I knew exactly where I was. I had known this town, this house, my whole life. So that feeling of fear didn't make sense. The more I mulled the thought over in my mind, however, pain striking like lightning bolts, something was blossoming. It both didn't make sense, and yet it also did. In the deep crevices of my mind, that feeling was familiar. And I had felt it before. No matter how hard I squinted, though, I couldn't make it out. When I squinted again, a sudden shriek of noise rattled in my skull, and it took me a disorienting moment to realize what I could hear was laughter. Hysterical laughter which seemed to grow louder and louder, encompassing my thoughts until it was deafening. Not just that, the walls were swimming, flashing in and out of existence before seemingly stabilizing themselves. I blinked. Was I losing my mind? Maybe this was a side effect of rejecting the urge. Elle? Mom's voice cut through the phantom laughter, which faded, and I blinked rapidly. Sweetie, are you okay? Yeah? The word was in my mouth before the thought could cross my mind. I shook my head, swallowing. Yeah, I'm fine. She nodded, though her expression darkened. Scrutinizing, I knew. She couldn't wait to get me under an MRI. All right, finish your breakfast. School starts in an hour. Mom stopped at the threshold. I really do think practicing killing will help a lot. She laughed, and I rolled my eyes, mimicking her. I flinched when another wave of laughter slammed into my ears. Faded, but very much there. Definitely not a figment of my imagination. Checking in my bedroom mirror, I didn't have a loose tooth. Even thinking that, though, panic started to curl in the root of my gut. My brain wouldn't shut up on my way to school. My gut was twisting and turning, trying to projectile that meager slice of toast. Annalise Duval had complained of a loose tooth before she rejected the urge. Was that what was going to happen to me? Was it all because of that stupid apple? At school, I was surprised to be cornered by a classmate I had said maybe 5 words to in our combined time at Briarwood High. Kaz Isaacs was one of the first kids in my class to be hit with the urge, and he almost ended up like Annalise Duval. I don't think it was the urge. I think he was driven to kill through emotions, like so many adults had tried to tell us wasn't real. Kaz was a confusing case where a teenager had actually blossomed early or not at all and struck with his own intent. Kaz didn't need the urge. Halfway through math class, 2 years prior, I was daydreaming about the rain. It rarely rained in Brightwood. Every day was picturesque, but I did remember rain. I knew what it felt like hitting my face, dropping into my open mouth, and filling my cupped hands. I remembered the sensation on it soaking my clothes and gluing my hair to the back of my neck. When I asked Mom if it was ever going to rain, though, she got a funny look on her face. Sweetie, it doesn't rain in Brightwood. It never rained? So where had I jumped into puddles? My gaze was fixed on the window pane, trying to imagine what a raindrop looked like sliding down the glass, when Kaz Isaacs let out an exaggerated sigh behind me. In front of him, Jessa Pollux had been tapping her pen on her desk. At first it wasn't annoying, but then she kept doing it. Tap, tap, tappity tap. And then it became annoying. I could tell it was annoying because Kaz politely asked her 3 times to stop making noise. Jessa, stop, he groaned, half asleep in his arms. When she continued, his tone hardened. Can you stop doing that? She ignored him, and if anything, tapped louder. I had grown up knowing that the urge came without warning, motive, or reason. It happened whether you liked it or not. His was different. His case was rare.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
This time he did have motive, and despite what we were taught, that killing didn't require a reason, and wasn't driven by negative emotion, Kaz was driven by anger. This time I saw it happen clearly. When I caught movement out of the corner of my eye, I twisted around with the rest of the class to see Kaz halfway off his chair, his fingers wrapped around a knife. He was already smiling, already thrilled with the idea of killing. The urge had hit him. Until that moment, he was a quiet kid who kept to himself. Jessa knew instantly what he was going to do, even without turning around. Like an animal, Kaz already had a tight hold of her ponytail and yanked her back. Though in fight or flight, the girl was screaming and flailing. She didn't want to die, I thought. Was that normal? Mom always insisted that if it was our time, it was our time. If someone attacked us, even family members, we were to accept it. I caught the moment her elbow knocked into Kaz's mouth, just as he drove the blade into her skull. Till then, Kaz had been consumed by a euphoric frenzy, intoxicated by the dark thrill of killing. It was as if the idea of ending a life had briefly elevated him to a state of pure euphoria. Growing up, Mom's stories spoke of finding a twisted pleasure in murder, and for a moment, seeing that look in my classmates' eyes, I understood why she described killing like a rush. It was a lunacy I didn't understand, complete unbridled insanity sending shivers down my spine. This was exactly what Mom was talking about. She described it like floating on a cloud, lukewarm water pulling underneath her feet. But just as abruptly as it had enveloped him, that otherworldly glow faded from Kaz's eyes. He crumpled to his knees, one hand clamped over his mouth, the knife slipping from his grasp. "That's enough," our teacher announced. "Kaz, go and clean yourself up." When he didn't respond, she snapped at him, "Mr. Isaacs!" Then he did, his gaze flicking to his blood-slicked hands. "Huh?" He seemed like he was on another planet, swaying back and forth. There was a moment when I met his half-lidded gaze, and he slowly inclined his head, like he was confused, scared. When Kaz lifted his head, I saw thick beads of red trickling down his chin, pulling down his fingers. It was the same look I had seen on Mrs. Jensen's face. Kaz blinked again before noticing the blood. "Fuck," he whimpered, his voice muffled. His eyes, filled with panic, flickered wildly. Without another word, he scrambled to his feet, stumbling toward the classroom door. When I asked him what happened the next day, he explained it was just an abnormal reaction and that he was fine. Kaz's words were strange. He wasn't even looking at me, and his smile was far too big. He got his first kill, though, so that gave him bragging rights as the first sophomore to come of age. Kaz Isaacs and Annalise Duval both had similar experiences. One of them had clearly lost their mind, while the other seemingly avoided it. And speaking of Kaz, it wasn't the norm for him to be talking to me at school. There he was, blocking my way into class. "Hey!" He quickly sidestepped in front of me when I tried pushing him out of the way. There had been a time, the year before, when I considered asking him to prom. He was a reasonably attractive guy, with reddish dark hair that curled slightly as it peeked out from under a well-worn baseball cap. Crooked smile that was never genuine, always leaning more toward irony. But then I remembered what he did to Jessa. I remembered the sound of his knife slicing through skin, cartilage, and bone, and despite her cries, her animalistic wails for him to stop, he kept going, driving it further and further into her skull. I couldn't look him in the eye after that. Kaz inclined his head. "Can we talk?" "No." My mouth was still sore, and I was questioning my sanity, so speaking to Kaz wasn't really on my to-do list that morning. Kaz didn't move, sticking an arm out so I couldn't get past him. "Do you have a toothache by any chance?" To emphasize his words, he stuck his finger in his mouth, dragging his index finger across his upper incisors. Like bad toothache? His voice was muffled by his finger. Kaz leaned forward, arching his brow. You do, don't you? Right now. You feel like your whole mouth is on fire, and yet you can't detect any wobblies. The guy's words sent a sliver of ice tingling down my spine. He was right. I hadn't felt right since biting into the apple. When I didn't say anything, his lip twitched into a scowl. All right. You don't want to talk. He raised 2 fingers in a salute. Suit yourself. What do you mean? I asked, mostly to humor him. He shrugged. Maybe wait a few days and then come talk to me, all right? As his words didn't really hit me until several days later. I woke up with a throbbing mouth, knelt over the corpse of my mother. The urge had finally come. It was something I had been anticipating and fearing my whole life, terrified I wouldn't get it, and would end up ostracized by my loved ones. But when I saw my mom's body and the vague memory of plunging a kitchen knife into her chest hit me, I didn't feel happy or relieved. I felt like I had done something bad, which was the wrong thing to think. Killing was good. The words echoed in my mind. Killing was our way of release. How could I think that when there was a knife clutched between my fingers? The weapon that had killed her, hurt her. How was this supposed to make me feel good? My mother's eyes were closed, peaceful, like she had accepted her death. The teeth of the blade dripped deep, dark red, and I knew I should have felt something. Joy or happiness. Except all I felt was empty and numb and fucking wrong. Alone. I felt despair in its purest form, which began to chew me up from inside as I lulled from my foggy thoughts. I wasn't supposed to scream. I wasn't supposed to cry, but my eyes were stinging, and I felt like I was being suffocated. I saw flashes in quick succession. A room bumbling with moving silhouettes, and the smell of coffee. Mom never let me try coffee, and I was sure we never had it in the house. So, how did I know the feeling of it running down my throat? Just like in my bedroom, the walls started to swim. This time I jumped to my feet and leaped over my mom's corpse, slamming my hands into them. They were real. Almost as if on cue, there it was again. Laughing loud shrieks of hysterical laughter thrumming in time with the dull pain pounding in my back tooth. Blinking through an intense fog choking my mind, my first coherent thought was that yes, Kaz was right. I did have a loose tooth, and when I was sure of that, I was stuffing my bloody fingers inside my mouth trying to find it. I grabbed the knife feverishly, my first thought to cut it out, when there was a sudden knock at the front door. Slipping barefoot on the blood, pulling across our kitchen floor, I struggled to get to the door without throwing up my insides. Annalise Duval was standing on my doorstep. I had seen her in odd assortments of clothes, but this one was definitely eye-catching. The girl was wearing a wedding dress that hung off her, the veil barely clinging to the mess of bedraggled curls she never brushed. Blinking at me through straggly blonde hair, she almost resembled an angel. The dress itself was filthy, blood and dirt smeared down the corset, the skirt torn up. "Hello, Elle." The girl lifted a hand in a wave. Her smile wasn't crazed like my classmates had described. Instead, it was sad. Annalise's gaze found my hands slick with my mother's blood but barely seemed fazed. "Do you want to see the wall people?" Until then, I had ignored her ramblings, but when I started hearing the laughing, wall people didn't sound so crazy after all. I nodded. "Can you hear the laughing?" I asked. "Sometimes." Sometimes? He twirled in the dress. That's how it started for me. Laughing. I heard a lot of laughing. And then I found the wall people. I winced when she came close, so close, almost suffocating me. Nobody believes me, and it's sad. I'm just trying to tell people about the wall people, but they label me as crazy. They say something went wrong with my head. Annalise stuck 2 fingers to her temple and pulled the imaginary trigger, her eyes rolling back like she was mimicking her own death. I'm not the one who's wrong. I know about the wall people and the laughing. I know why I murdered my mom. Annalise, I said calmly, can you tell me what you mean? Her eyes were partially vacant, that one sliver of coherence quickly fading away. Instead of speaking, I took her arm gently and pulled her down my driveway. Can you show me what you found? Annalise danced ahead of me, tripping in her wedding dress. She cocked her head. Did you kill your mother too? Her lips twitched. It's funny. According to the wall people, you're not supposed to kill someone until the end of seasonal 3. Girl blinked, giggling, and I forced myself to run after her. Wow, she was fast, even in a wedding dress. Annalise leapt across the sidewalk, twisting and twirling around like she was in her own world. Before she landed in front of me, her expression almost looked sane. I wonder which season it will be. Will it be summer? Maybe fall or winter? I guess it's not up to you, is it? It's up to the urge. Laughing again, the girl grabbed my hand, her fingernails biting into my skin. I glimpsed a single red drop of red run from her nose, which she quickly wiped with the sleeve of her dress, leaving a scarlet smear. Let's go and see the wall people, Elle, she hummed. As her footsteps grew more stumbled, blood ran down her chin, spotting the sidewalk. I don't know if coherency ever truly hit Annalise Duval, but knowing she was bleeding, her steps grew quicker, more frenzied. I quickened my own pace. Your nose, was all I could say. Annalise nodded with a sad smile. I know, she said. Don't worry, it will stop when I shut up. Her smile widened. But what if I don't shut up? Oh, what are the wall people going to do, huh? Are you going to explode my brain? Alright, we're going to stop there because this goes on for quite a ways. So we'll pick back up on this when we get back from our music break. And on this music break, we have Miss Michaela Hay with Nothing But Blood, Close, Devil You Know, and Collapse.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
And then we have Mr. Fred Johnson III with Sugar. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
There's too much sky, too blue, too white. The birds on the wire are singing, but I don't know why. Why aren't the roses hanging their heads? They're standing straight up, blooming instead. Now that we're apart, there's nothing but blood in my heart. have a smile on his face. Why is the sun even shining today? Why are the headlines talking about love? Don't they all know what happened to us? Now that we're apart, there's nothing but blood in my heart. The moon goes up, the sun goes down, the stars light up, the world goes round. Every day, life moves on, it don't stop for anyone. The moon goes up, the sun goes down, the stars light up, the world goes round. Every day, life moves on, it don't stop for anyone. Now that we're apart, there's nothing. Now that we're apart, there's nothing but blood in my heart. Ooh, blood in my heart. Ooh, blood in my heart. Saw you for the first time in a while, in a while. You seemed so surprised. I worked out a smile, out a smile, out a smile. 'Cause I've grown and I've changed. Yeah, we went separate ways. How come we're both back here? 'Cause you pushed me away, let my life rearrange, but still we're both back here. Back here. Close to me, I want you close to me. I can see that you wanted me. Follow me, baby, just follow me.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Your troubled heart bleeds like a river. It's rushing towards fields painted greener. It doesn't see the demons behind, praying you're getting close to the line, so they can get their hands on love and trade it off for silver. Better the devil you know. 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 Where'd you go? You're running away. I know
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Waiting here on this cold, lonely night without you. The tension's overbearing. Wondering, are you coming back home again? To inspire fondness with love. Where did our love go wrong? My sugar. Why did I make you cry? Whispers flow through my mind when I think about you. That warm feeling in me. My heart sings a sad song and just melts away. Please look into my eyes, my sugar. There's life in out there. Until the sun doesn't shine anymore, I'll be there. When time is a memory, I'll know this love. You will always be the one, my sugar. The feeling is so strong. Waiting here on this cold, lonely night without you. Where did our love go wrong, my sugar?
Welcome back, and thanks so much for hanging out with me tonight on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. So that was Miss Michaela Lee from Ontario, Canada. And then that was also Mr. Fred Johnson III from Canyon County, California. Alright, so we're gonna get back to our story from Reddit Stories, I believe it is. Scary Stories. And this one was Murder is Legal in My Town. When people started to come out of their homes to see what was going on, I dragged her into a run. Are you insane? I hissed. Maybe. Annalise seemed to be floating between awareness and whatever the fuck the urge had done to her. Don't worry, they're just peeking. What? The girl had an attention span of a rock. Her gaze went to the sky. I'm going to turn the sun off, so I can't show you. The words meant nothing to me until the clouds started to darken, just like Annalise had predicted. The sky began to get dark. Knowing that somehow this supposedly crazy girl knew when things were going to happen only quickened my steps into a run. Hey! Halfway down the street, Kaz Isaacs was riding his bike towards us, which I found odd. Kaz didn't own a bike. He rode the bus to school. Hell! Waving at me with one hand and grasping the handlebars with the other. Kaz pedaled faster. Oh, do you want to hang out? King, Annalise said under her breath. Ignoring Kaz, I nodded at Annalise to keep going, though the boy didn't give up. We twisted around and he caught up easily, skidding on the edge of the sidewalk. When he came to an abrupt stop in front of us, his gaze flicked to Annalise. He raised a brow. Shouldn't you be praying in the forest? The girl recoiled like a cat hissing. Peeking! Kaz shot me a look. Of all the people you could have made friends with, you choose Annalise Duval? His eyes softened when I ignored him and pulled the girl further down the road. Kaz followed slowly on his bike. Where are you going anyway? Isn't it late?
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
It was 4 p.m. I decided to humor him. We're going to see the wall people. You're kidding. Do I sound like I'm kidding? I turned my attention to him. You asked me if I had a toothache, right? His expression crumpled. I did? I noticed Annalise was clingier with him around, sticking to my side. Every time he moved, she flinched, tightening her grip on my arm. The girl was leading us into the forest, and I swore the closer we got to the clearing, the more townspeople were popping up out of nowhere. An old woman greeted us, followed by a man with a dog, and then a group of kids from school. Annalise entangled her fingers in mine, pulling me through the clearing. Kaz followed hesitantly, biking over rough ground. Once again, I think this is a bad idea, he said in a singing voice. We should go back. When it was too dangerous for his bike, he abandoned it and joined my side. Well, the girl is insane, Kaz hissed. What are you even doing? What is this going to accomplish except potentially getting lost? I want to know if she's telling the truth, I murmured back. He scoffed. Telling the truth? Well, look at this place. He spread his arms, gesturing to the rapidly darkening forest. There's nothing here. No, Annalise ran ahead, staggering over the tricky ground. No, it's right over here. He was still fighting a nosebleed, and her words were starting to slur. The girl twisted to Kaz. You're peeking, she spat, striding over to him until they were face to face. Stop peeking, she said, her fingers delving under her wedding skirt where she pulled out a knife and pressed it to his throat. If you peek again, I will cut you open. Kaz nodded. Got it, Blondie. No peeking. Annalise didn't move for a second, her hands holding the knife trembling. You're not going to tell me I'm crazy again, she whispered. You're not crazy, Kaz said dryly. Say it again. You're not crazy, he yelped when she applied pressure to the blade. Can you stop swinging that around? Jeez. Annalise shot me a grin and took a second for me to realize. Kaz was scared of the knife. He was scared of dying, which meant whether he liked it or not, the boy had, in fact, not gone through with the urge. I thought the girl was going to slash Kaz's throat open in delight, but instead she looped her arm in his like they were suddenly best friends. Come on, Elle, she danced forward, pulling the boy with her. We're close. I wasn't sure about that. What we were, however, was lost. When the three of us came to a stop, it was pitch black, and I was struggling to see in front of me. Annalise, however, walked straight over to thin air and gestured to it with a grin. Ta-da! Spluttering through the pulling red, she let out a laugh. See? Kaz, who was still uncomfortably pressed to her no matter how hard he strained to get away, shot me a look I could barely make out. I'm sorry, what did I say? That we were going to get lost? That Annalise is certifiably crazy and is probably going to kill us? First, I thought I really was crazy. Maybe Annalise's condition was contagious. I could hear it again, laughing. But this time it was coming from exactly where Annalise was pointing. When the girl slammed her hand into thin air, there was a loud, clanging noise that sounded like metal. Slowly, I made my way toward it, and when my hands touched sleek metal, what felt like the corners of a door, more pain struck my upper incisors. Holy shit! Kaz was pressing himself against the door, then slamming his fists into it. Crazy bitch was right. His words hung in my thoughts on a constant cycle as we delved into what should have been forest. After all, we had been standing in the middle of nowhere. The laughter was deafening when I stepped over the threshold, and I had to slap my hands over my ears to block it out. Through the invisible door, however, was exactly what Annalise had described. Wall people. All around us were television screens, and on those screens were people, faces. They were not part of the laughter. The laughter was mechanical and wrong, rooted deep inside my skull. The faces that stared down at us were men and women, some teens and even younger children. Annalise and Kaz were next to me, their heads tipped back, gazes glued to the screens. Not the ones I was looking at. The ones on tiny computer monitors. When I finally tore my eyes from our audience, I began to see what made Kaz stiffen up next to me. One screen in particular showed his face. He was younger, maybe a year or two. No, I thought, something slimy creeping up my throat. It was from when he had killed that girl. His hands clasped in his lap were still stained and slick with Jessa Pollix's blood. The Kaz on the screen was far more relaxed, casually leaning back with his feet propped up on the table. His hair was shorter and his clothes were more formal than what I was used to seeing him in. I usually saw him in jeans and hoodies, but this Kaz wore a crisp white-collared shirt. Something hung around his neck, a thin strip of black fabric with a shiny card at the end, reminding me of some kind of badge. Why exactly have you signed up for this program? A man's voice crackled off screen. Duh. Kaz held up his scarlet hands, a grin twisting on his lips. His arrogant smile twisted my gut. So I can get my darkroom rep back. He leaned forward, his eyes narrowed. that is going to happen, right? I don't do this shit for free, and I've got 1 million followers to impress, man. Darkroom loves me. Kaz scoffed, crossing one left over the other. Even if I did go too far that one time, which wasn't even my fault, what are you guys, fucking Twitch? You are correct, the man said. Darkroom does benefit from its influencers. Our program aims to help satisfy certain needs by broadcasting them right here. He paused. You have killed 5 people before signing up for Darkroom, correct? Your parents? Parents and brother, Kaz's lips pricked into a smile. I gutted them just to see what was inside, but of course my TikTok got taken down by all the freaks in the comments trying to cancel me. He rolled his eyes. They worship you, call you a god, swear they'll do anything for you, and then fuck you. I flinched when he leaned forward, his gaze penetrating the camera. This guy knew exactly how to act in front of one. The slight incline of his head, trying to get the best angle. Can I tell you something? Yes, of course, young man. Have you ever been called a god? Because it's a rush. He laughed. I made stupid videos, and these people worshipped me. They loved me. Kaz clucked his tongue. But the moment I show them my real self, they turn on me and try to end my career. He leaned back in his chair with a sigh, glancing at the camera. And then I found you guys, who pay me to be my real, authentic self. Now, how could I decline an offer like that?
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
And the man cleared his throat. You will keep killing? We are aware the initial implant impacted your brain quite badly. In the subdued state, you will keep killing, as the so-called urge says. However, in reality, we will be sending signals to your brain which will make you commit murder. All right, I'll do it. Are you sure? We couldn't help noticing during your first kill you seemed to, well, react in a way we haven't seen before. It's possible there could be a potential fault. He cocked his head like a puppet cut from strings. Did the comments like it? Well, yes. Good. Kaz held out his arm. Do it again, and do it right this time. As long as I'm getting 40K every appearance, I'm good. You can slice my brain up all you want. I'm getting paid and followers, so, his gaze found the camera, what are you waiting for? When the screen went black, then flickered to a bird's eye view, and finally a close-up of my house, I felt my legs give way. As if on impulse, I prodded at my tooth and felt that it was loose. That, Kaz spoke up, his voice a breathy whisper. His eyes were still glued to the screen, confusion crumpling his expression. That wasn't me. Well, it was me, but I don't remember that. To my surprise, he turned to me, and I saw real fear in his eyes. Elle, he gritted out, that is not me. Instead of answering him, I turned away when alarm bells started ringing and the room was suddenly awash in flashing red light. Peeking! Annalise squeaked, hiding behind me. Ignoring her, I focused on Kaz, or whoever the hell he was. I slammed the door shut, throwing myself against it. You need to knock my tooth out, I told him. Now! Well, believe it or not, that is the end of that story. Pretty good scary story there, I must say. This is a Reddit ghost story, and it says that the user is Whispers of the Dead, and the title is True and Strange. To give you a little setting so this will make sense, I live in a small town in the northeast. Our village is surrounded by heavy forest. My house sits on the edge of town. There is a park across the street and another to the right. I have one neighbor whose house is about 150 to 200 feet from the rear of my house. An old bachelor who lives alone behind us is a forested ravine and then a cemetery. All this is blocked from view by 30-foot spruce hedges. Okay, so I have lived in this house for 16 years. I'm a 47-year-old man and my kids are all grown but one. I'm a horror nut and don't smoke easy, but the last few days I will go out on the deck to smoke tobacco. So this is where it gets strange. It will be dark, 9:30 or 10, not too late. I will hear a soft multi-tone whistle similar to a person making bird calls coming from the dark hedge. Always the same, always pitch black, probably 150 feet shy of the cemetery. I've lived here a long time, and this is strange. Telepathy? So this is Reddit Telepathy, and the user is Dalen K. Did my 4-year-old son hear my thoughts? This summer I was home alone with my 4-year-old son. He was watching TV and I was doing chores. It was a nice sunny day, so I started thinking that maybe I'd bring him for a cycle in the baby seat on the back of my bike. No sooner had I thought that when my son said, I just want to stay in the house. I asked him what he meant, and he said he didn't want to go for a cycle. I 100% did not ask him or speak my thoughts aloud. This is a one-off. He hasn't ever said anything like this before. Thoughts? Did I encourage this, and how? Thank you. Short Scary Stories by user Forgotten Well. I found bruises on my son. My ex-husband dropped our son off Sunday night as per custody agreement. Same custody agreement he is desperately fighting. I made Braxton a bath, and as he was getting undressed, I saw them, 2 deep purple fist-sized bruises on his chest. My head was spinning. I was so angry. My ex has always had a temper. In his room, I made him sit on his bed. You're not in trouble, I assured him. How did you get those bruises, honey? He started looking around the room. He was clearly nervous. It's all right. Mommy just needs to know, okay? I'm not supposed to tell you. If it was my ex, I swear to God I'll kill him. It's okay. You can tell me. It was the man in my closet. I say each word carefully. The man? In your closet? He said I have to be strong to survive where he's going to take me. Take you? Honey, who is this man? Where is he taking you? Can I go to bed now, please? Braxton never asked for an early bedtime in his life. Something isn't right. It sounds like he's making stuff up, probably because his father told him to. I go into my garage and get in my car. It's the only place I can yell without Braxton hearing. I call my ex-husband. He answers. We shouldn't talk without the lawyers present. Did you hit him, you son of a bitch? He pauses and I can hear him breathing. Jen, I am worried about you. I think you need serious psychiatric help. Yeah, this is his lawyer's strategy. Paint me as the mentally unwell mother. I saw the bruises on him. He was with you all weekend. And what's this man in his closet bullshit? Are you hallucinating again? Forget it. We shouldn't be talking. I'll see you in court. Rick hung up on me. I get Braxton out of bed and I tell him we have to go see his father. I'm going to show him the bruises and confront him. I'm going to make sure this never happens again, even if I have to kill the bastard. I'm scared, Braxton says. I don't want to go to Dad's. I pull into his driveway and the idiot has left his front door open. I'm calling out to him, but he doesn't answer. I find him in Braxton's room. He's laying on the floor, limp, blood pooling around his head. Braxton screams, "Mom!" Something cracks my skull and I collapse on the ground, stunned. I think there is blood in my eye, but I see a large figure. The figure says, "Come on, little adventurer." I don't want to go, Braxton is crying. Heroes don't choose, they're chosen. We have to save my world. He grabs my son's hand, drags him screaming into the closet, and closes the door behind them. My adrenaline surges. I crawl and manage to stand. I open the closet door. Inside is empty. Creepy.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Reddit no sleep. User silent_astronaut_532. I know why it laughs. I've been living in my childhood home for 3 weeks now. Mom passed in February, Dad 2 years before that, and the house became mine by default. I'm 34, divorced, and couldn't afford my apartment anymore anyway. Moving back felt like failure, but at least it was free failure. The house remembers everything. I noticed it before the laughter started. Little things. The way the third stair still creaked in the exact spot where I used to step, and sneaking downstairs for midnight snacks. While the afternoon light through my bedroom window still made that same triangle on the wall. The one I used to pretend was a mountain I could climb into. The house held all of it, patient as a photograph. The laughter started on the 4th night. I was scrolling through my phone in bed when I heard it. Soft, muffled, coming from directly beneath me. Child's giggle, the kind that bubbles up when they're trying not to laugh, but can't help it. The kind that sounds like pure light. I froze. Giggling continued for maybe 10 more seconds. Not malicious, not threatening, just there. Like someone had pressed play on a recording I didn't know existed. I grabbed my phone's flashlight and checked under the bed. Nothing but dust bunnies and a box of my old baseball cards I'd forgotten existed. The Tony Gwynn rookie card was still on top, exactly where 8-year-old me had left it. The next evening it happened again, 11:47 p.m. That same stifled giggling like a kid with their hand over their mouth, shoulders shaking with contained joy. This time I was ready. I rolled off the bed and dropped to the floor, shining my light underneath. The laughter stopped immediately, but in that split second before it did, I could have sworn I saw something. Not a shape or a figure, more like an impression. The way air shimmers over hot pavement. By the 7th night, I had tried everything, removed everything from under the bed, set up my phone to record, even spent one night sleeping on the couch. The laughter still came from upstairs, from my empty room, 11:47 p.m. exactly. The recording only picked up the faintest sound, like whispers of air forming words in a language I'd forgotten how to speak. I started leaving work earlier, telling myself it was to beat traffic, but really I was being pulled back. The house wanted me there, needed me to hear something. Night 10, the laughter was clearer. It was definitely a boy, maybe 7 or 8 years old. There was something achingly familiar about it, like a song you know but can't place. I found myself leaning over the edge of the bed listening, not afraid anymore, just lost. That's when other things started coming back. Not memories exactly, more like muscle memory. I'd catch myself sitting cross-legged on the floor without meaning to, the way I used to when building Legos. I bought cereal I hadn't eaten in 20 years. Started unconsciously tracing patterns on my desk that turned out to be the same doodles that still marked my childhood homework. Night 15, I recognized the laugh. I was sitting on the edge of my bed when it started. 11:47, reliable as gravity. This time, instead of fear, I felt something crack in my chest, a fissure in whatever shell I'd built around myself. I knew that exact laugh. I knew when I'd laughed it. The night before my 9th birthday, Mom and Dad had hidden my present under the bed. A remote control car I'd been begging for. I'd snuck out of bed to investigate and found it wrapped in silver paper that caught the moonlight. I remember pressing my hand over my mouth, trying so hard not to wake anyone. But the joy just bubbled out anyway, unstoppable, pure. The laughter under my bed was mine, from 25 years ago. After that, I started recognizing all of them. Each night brought a different laugh, a different moment. The night I'd successfully prank called my sister from the landline in this very room. The time Jake slept over and we told ghost stories until we scared ourselves into hysterics. The afternoon I'd beaten Super Mario World for the first time. My first kiss with Sarah Chin in 8th grade. And how I'd come home and flopped on this bed, giddy and dizzy and alive. The house had been recording everything, every moment of joy, every burst of genuine happiness, caught in the grain of the wood, in the spaces between the walls, a library of who I used to be. I stopped trying to sleep through it, started waiting for 11:47. Sometimes I'd lie on the floor, ear pressed to the hard wood, listening to my younger self discover the world was magic. Other times I'd sit at my old desk, running my fingers over those carved doodles, trying to remember what it felt like to have that much hope. 3 weeks in, and I finally understood. The house wasn't haunted. It was trying to haunt me back to life. Because somewhere between that 9th birthday and my 34th, I'd stopped. Stopped laughing like that, stopped feeling like that. I learned to moderate my joy, package it in acceptable doses. Professional, appropriate, adult. I'd learned to live quietly, to want quietly, to fail quietly. Tonight as I write this, it's 11:46. 1 minute until the laughter comes. I've been thinking about something. Last week my cousin brought her kid over to help me sort through Mom's things. 6 years old, gap-toothed, obsessed with dinosaurs. At some point he discovered the echo in the empty dining room and spent 20 minutes just shouting, "Hello!" and giggling at the response. Pure delight at something so simple. I watched him and felt this crushing weight because I realized I was looking at him the way you'd look at an extinct species. Like joy that pure couldn't possibly exist in the same world as mortgage payments and performance reviews and divorce papers. But it did. He was proof. 11:47 now, there it is. Tonight's laugh is from Christmas morning, 1998. A year I got a chemistry set and immediately tried to make a potion that would let me talk to dogs. I can hear it all in that laugh, the absolute certainty that anything was possible, that the world was built for discovering, that I was exactly who I was supposed to be. The laughter under my bed isn't trying to scare me. It's trying to tell me I'm still here, still that kid, still capable of that kind of joy. The house remembers who I am even when I don't. I started laughing back, quietly at first, just a chuckle in response, but last night when I heard my 10-year-old self laughing at a joke I'd completely forgotten, I found myself really laughing until my stomach hurt, laughing like I was trying to shake something loose. My neighbor probably thinks I'm losing it. Maybe I am. Or maybe I'm finding it.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
The laughter under my bed comes every night at 11:47. It'll probably keep coming, and I'll keep listening, keep remembering, keep trying to find my way back to whoever that kid was. The one who knew that houses could hold memories, that joy could soak into walls, that laughter could echo across decades if you just knew how to listen. The house remembers everything. Maybe it's time I did too. Well, that was the good one. Reddit Glitch in the Matrix by user Slow Caterpillar 2236. Kitchen Mystery. I work as a chef, and the strangest thing happened yesterday at the restaurant. During service, we got a ticket that looked really weird. One main course and one starter at the same time, and then another main course and another starter afterward. The ticket just kind of materialized. We don't remember which waiter called it. My colleague and I both looked at the ticket and talked about how strange it looked. We both remember it clearly. Then, after we'd cooked the food, the ticket suddenly disappeared. It wasn't hanging on the wall in the ticket holder anymore. We asked all the servers who brought it down, but every single one of them said they had no idea what we were talking about, and none of them had taken down an order like that. And we couldn't remember who brought it down either. The third chef working that day also said he had no clue what we were talking about. But my colleague and I are both 100% sure we saw the ticket with the order. We agree on exactly what it said. We hung it up, and then it was just gone. None of the servers had written it, and no one knew anything. And we definitely didn't take it down ourselves. It just vanished. So weird. Now we're joking that it must have been a hungry ghost that placed the order. Dreams. If I die in 3 weeks, let the record show I was warned. And this is by user agreeable_banana_903. I usually get nightmares and dream about death, but I can't stop wondering about this dream I had a couple days ago. The whole dream was very chaotic. The significant part started with me lying against a tree on the side of the road. I was very injured, sick somehow, and could feel myself withering away. An older dark-haired woman approaches me and is worried. She's asking me what happened and is encouraging me to stay alive and telling me I'll be okay. Almost like in a video game, a few boxes with speech options pop up for me, one of which says something along the lines of, "But how do I continue with the 2 to 3 weeks I have left?" And another that says a similar thing but with the time frame of 4 to 5 weeks. I don't remember which one I picked, but I have a feeling it was the 2 to 3 one. In response, she says, "You have to live your life to the fullest with the time you have left." She was very sincere and insistent. During this, my vision was dark as if my eyes were closing. Thinking about it now, it doesn't really freak me out, but I initially woke up shaken up and was incredibly anxious for the day. I think the part that freaks me out is that the time frame was specific, and I felt as though she was really trying to get her message directly to me. I don't know. Reddit Paranormal user The Night Stalker's Girl. Many different creepy things have happened in our apartment. I think it's a mimic, but I'm not sure. A little bit about us. So I live with my sister and her husband in an apartment. She's very religious, not the crazy type. She just is very into faith. Me, on the other hand, I believe in God, but I don't know. I'm into more free spirit kind of stuff. I like spooky stuff, horror movies, and anything Halloween. She likes chilling at the beach, sunny days, country music, and going to church on Sundays. Yeah, we're polar opposites. Same mom, different dads. As her mom used to say, my daughters are as different as night and day. Me being the night, we are 17 years apart and I'm the younger one. Okay, now into the whole reason for the post. We've been having really weird stuff happen, I'd say maybe the past 2 years. Knocking on the side of the walls that usually comes from the bathroom or the kitchen. Not really a big deal. Can easily be brushed off as an animal or pipes in the wall, right? Right? But what can't be brushed off is the fact we have heard each other's voices at times. It can't be any of us. The first time it happened, I was in the shower. I heard her, or what I thought was her, come in and go, "Hey!" I got out a few minutes later to talk to her while she was on break and she wasn't here. I was like, well, maybe she just came home to grab a pop since she works not even 7 minutes down the road. When she got home, I was like, I was going to talk to you on your break, but you were gone by the time I got out of the shower. She looked at me confused and asked what I meant. She said she hadn't come home for a break. I was like, what? I definitely heard you come in and say hey. And she's like, no, it wasn't me. We were both weirded out. Fast forward about a month. It's around 10:30 p.m. and we're all in bed when I get a text from my sister saying, "Hey, what did you need?" I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "John said you called my name." And I was like, "No, I didn't say anything." Again, we're weirded out. This time it was only a couple weeks later, bedtime again. I can't remember the exact time, but probably not long after 10 or before, because that's usually when they go to bed. My sister said she sat up in bed and said, "What did she say?" Her husband said, "Huh?" And she's like, "Angie called my name and said something, but what else did she say?" He was like, "She didn't say anything, or at least I didn't hear it." And again, she texted me. I told her no, I hadn't said anything. That's probably the weirdest thing that happened other than a couple days ago. It was just me and my sister home. We have 2 cats and a dog, and all of them asleep by us. We have the TV on, and we're casually talking when all of a sudden we heard this really deep guttural growl, just so full of what sounded like pure anger. My sister doesn't usually cuss unless she's very mad or scared. She shut the TV off and looked at me and was like, "What the fuck was that?" I asked her first what it sounded like to her, knowing myself it sounded like a growl, but I didn't want to say that. She said it sounded like an evil growl. She told her husband about it when he called on his way home, and he was like, maybe it was a raccoon in the walls. We were both like, no way. This was not a raccoon. He told him in no way did it sound like a raccoon. He said, well, what did it sound like? He said, I don't know, it sounded evil. We've had other smaller stuff happen, like a cat ball roll by itself forward toward my sister, then stop and completely switch direction and roll back the way it came from. No air or heat or windows were open. Our pets will stare in the kitchen and our dog will bark and growl. We've even had like 2 or 3 small dishes show up in the cabinet.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
And none of us got them or know where they came from. I have a little lamp that turns itself on and off at different times. I think that's pretty much it. If I can think of any other stuff that's happened, I'll come back and edit this, but I've looked up stuff, and based on the growling and us hearing each other's voice, to me it sounds like a mimic. So Financial Phil 2152 says, your sister is a person of faith, right? And you guys know what to do. Declare the name of Jesus and tell whatever it is to get out. It was all fine until that growl. You can't have something in your space that doesn't like you. Good story. Creepy story. The Night Stalker's girl responded with, yeah, she's religious, but I think this stuff freaks her out, so she tries to forget about it and not think about it. He's never tried to sage out, cleanse the house, although she isn't into that stuff. And she definitely hasn't, demanded anything leave. Do you think whatever it is evil, or can it be ignored? Well, to be honest with you, the Night Stalker's girl, you can't ignore stuff like this. A lot of times the more you ignore it, the more it acts up. So just be careful with what you do or don't do. Alright, so on that note, boys and girls, we are going to go to our second music break, where we once again have Miss Michaelin Hay from Ontario, Canada with Gravity, Pins and Needles, Mirror, and then we have Fred Johnson III with After Dark. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
Chase the spark, search until we
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Talking on pins and needles, every word through a microscope. You keep stomping down on the ground while I've been stuck on this tightrope. I just wanna say what I wanna say without your sentence. I'm not willing to do the time when I'm innocent, and I'm innocent. Talking on pins and needles. Talking on pins and needles. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. Walked on my share of thin ice with your blowtorch at my feet. You won't ever see me beg, so take this tongue off your leash. I'm gonna say what I wanna say, don't need permission. Interpret it how you want, it's my decision. Talking on pins and needles. Talking on pins and needles. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. Dancing on shattered glass, kicking the pieces all around. My safety has been broken, this is now a hunting ground. Talking on pins and needles. Talking on pins and needles. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, hang it up, hang it up. And I'm done, and I'm done, and I'm done, done, done. I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, talking about, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, talking about, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, talking about, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up, I'm gonna hang it up. I dove right in. Didn't bring a parachute, fell right through, hit the water hard. Moving too fast, spiraling out of control, was touch and go, went a little far. You taught me how to turn a blind eye. I showed you how to keep my shoulder cold. No one walked away without a scar. I've been digging through the pieces. Your heart is out of reach, but objects may seem near. left upon my chest, I'll attest. I don't really wanna forget to forget you. Taught me how to turn a blind eye. I showed you how to keep your shoulder cold. No one walked away without a scar. I've been digging through the pieces. Your heart is out of reach, but objects may seem nearer through this rippled mirror. I've been digging through the pieces. Your heart is out of reach, but objects may seem nearer through this rippled mirror. You taught me how to turn a blind eye. I showed you how to keep a shoulder cold. No one walked away without a scar. I've been digging through the pieces. Your heart is out of reach, but objects may seem nearer through this rippled mirror. I've been digging through the pieces. Your heart is out of reach, but objects may seem nearer through this rippled mirror.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
My driver pulls up in my limousine, ready to take me anywhere I want to be. I say, I want to go. Take me to a college scene. I like to go and dance, have drinks, and hunt the perfect date. Yeah. Living at the door, I search lonely streets to find hidden shadows in the dark. It doesn't matter what I say. Secret homicides arranged in a series of pursuits. No matter what I say, after dark, I gave her face because she had the range. I knew she was the one that never could go home again. Plastic life by limo seats. I don't know why I can't control this urge to hurt again. Yeah. Living at the door, I search lonely streets to find hidden shadows in the dark. It doesn't matter what I say.
Welcome back, and thanks so much for joining me on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. We're going to get back to our third hour of Reddit story time with me, TessaTNT. And this is a scary story by Nick Nova Nightingale, YT. That's not a dog. Most of my stories are made up, at least to a certain point. I'll draw from real experiences or pull from my own fears, add change, and bring life to ideas that otherwise would be boring. For the ones who like true stories, I'll give you one of mine. Some of you may have even experienced a similar thing like this. I was maybe 18 to 19 years old at the time, and before my beautiful Gerberian Shepsky named Sweet Pea was in my life, I had a Doberman Lab mix named Grizz. His coat was mainly black, and that bit will make sense as you continue to read. Compared to Pea, he was very calm, never barked much, and was extremely gentle with people. Truly a snugglebug. It must have been some time in the afternoon when I was laying in my room with my bedroom door open, just scrolling Instagram or watching YouTube, when out of the corner of my eye I saw a black mass coming down the hall. No taller than 3 feet, and I honestly thought it was my dog coming to check on everybody in the house like he usually would. This shadowy mass walked into my room and laid down at the foot of my bed, out of sight. I don't know about y'all, but I let my dogs on the bed because I fucking love them, and he didn't jump up right away though, so I sat up and patted the bed, making kissy noises to gesture him up there. Didn't jump up, but I heard his collar coming down the hall, eventually emerging into my doorway. You can imagine the feeling that immediately stemmed from that experience, and of course I scooted to the end of my bed, expecting to see something there, only to see the carpet. I was so certain it was Grizz, but part of me is happy I didn't fully look at the shadow as it entered to find out. I have plenty of other stories that have happened in and around my house, from paranormal stuff to unexplained stuff to unexplainable weird things happening and what I would call an evil entity attack while I was astral projecting. All good fun and scares. Another time, though. That's not a dog. Short one tonight, maybe a longer one later, if I get the spark. Thanks for reading. Original true story by Nick, and I don't know why anybody would choose this one to cover over my others, but the same rules go for this one as them. You have my permission to use this story if you're a channel looking for material to read off. Well, thanks, Nick. Nick Nova Nightingale, YT. I appreciate it. This one is a ghost story by B Turbo 1976. Found a shoe in the wall. Many years ago, we were renovating an old house and found an old lady's shoe in the wall, so we took it out of the wall. For a week after that, strange things would happen at night. Lights turning on, footsteps banging, and things being moved around. So after a week of this going on, we put the shoe back in the wall and everything went back to normal. So I guess this is a thing they did back in the good old days. They put a piece of clothing, generally a shoe or two, and it was to ward off evil spirits and energies.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
Paranormal Encounters by Peaceful Waters and Sky. Has anyone ever experienced something similar? I'm too afraid to bring this up to any of my friends. I'm not a great storyteller, and this is my first time actually typing this experience out, so bear with me. When I was about 9 to 10 years old, I believe I encountered a demon. I was in my room and my father was outside. I remember drawing and coloring, and right when I was putting a cap on one of my markers, I heard a whistle. I naturally assumed my dad was trying to get my attention. I called out, "Dad," but got no response. I sat still for a second and was about to resume, but then I noticed movement from a pile of clothes in my room. I look at it and try to comprehend what I'm seeing, but my child brain just couldn't piece it together right away. I remember staring, and my eyes started watering and tears streamed down my face, but I didn't know why. That's when I realized I'm seeing two huge round eyes. That Momo picture that was floating around a few years back is almost identical. And a thin-lipped large mouth. I remember screaming and feeling like I couldn't run past it to leave my room. I ended up sprinting to my door and opening it and slamming it shut behind me, practically hopping and skipping, as well as sobbing and screaming for my dad. I distinctly remember his reaction to what I told him I saw. He didn't soothe me or try to tell me it was just my imagination. He told me to stay out of my room and stay outside with him. I believe I saw a demon. He ended up going into my room probably an hour later and said it was okay, but I never closed my door after that. No Sleep by Series 7. My friends say I've been visiting them at night. I haven't left my house in weeks. So I bought this mirror at a flea market about 3 weeks ago. It was old and heavy with a carved wooden frame that had gone through multiple restorations. It smelled faintly damp. The seller told me it came from an estate sale. I naturally thought it would make my bare apartment feel less empty. The first night I set it up, I noticed something strange. When I passed it in the dark, my reflection didn't quite match. My face looked distorted and wrong, and my mouth was forced into uncomfortably stretched lips. But when I realized that was how glass warped reflections in bad lighting. I used to have a lot of fun with this weird trick in the bathroom mirror when I was a child. For a few days it behaved like a normal mirror, as it should have. Nothing was magical about it, it just did a good job filling the empty space by the cabinet in my bedroom. Sometime a week later I caught movement in the corner of my eye and realized that I was standing in the mirror even though I was in the corridor leading to the room. Light couldn't bend that far. Another time I walked past it and somehow the reflection hesitated just a beat before following. I stopped looking directly at it after that. It weirded me out so much. I convinced myself I was just seeing things for quite some time. The reflection did not misbehave too. However, once in broad daylight, I found myself staring at the mirror just too long. I felt this weird attraction. I broke contact when fear got the better of me, specifically when I realized that the sclera in my eyes looked stark, uncannily white. It creeped me out. The next morning, Friday, I brushed it off and tried to throw myself back into work. I was already running late when I finally made it into the office. I hadn't even sat down at my desk when one of my coworkers slid past with a weird look on his face. "You were in the bathroom on our floor this morning," he said, like he couldn't believe he was saying it. Just standing there staring. Wouldn't answer me. Kind of freaked me out. I froze. I had been back at home until 20 minutes before. That day drifted by. I even visited the bathroom myself to check if my reflection did dirty its weird tricks. Nothing was overtly unusual other than the weird lag to my movements that was persistent. Later that night, the calls started. My phone woke me with a buzz sometime close to 3:47 a.m., like a warning in my palm. I fumbled for it. I had 11 missed calls, all from my friend Maria, miles away from where I lived. My dumb thumb blurred as I flipped through them. 9 in the last 20 minutes and 2 from earlier that night. Her name had never looked so frantic on my screen. I hit play on the newest voicemail she left me. She didn't respond to any of the calls I sent further. Her voice burst out of the speaker before the beep. A ragged sound, half sentence, half scream. "Stop, please stop ringing the bells. What are you doing?" Under her words was another sound, numerous high metallic rings paced too evenly, quite deliberately at first. The next voicemail. "Pick up the phone. This isn't funny. Drew, I can see you on the ring. Stop it. Stop it. Why are you grinning at me? Stop. Oh God, please. I won't open the door. Stop." The words were all breath and Nell's, panicked. The rings were unnaturally placed now, too rapid for human fingers to place. I fear I heard a massive door crash open by the end of the clip. I texted her, tried calling her back. No response, no blue ticks, no typing. My chest lugged its own panic. Just then, in the darkness of my room, I saw something move in the doorway as I rested my phone. A wedge of a shadow shaped like a person standing perfectly still at the threshold of my room where the corridor light died. The silhouette tightened, shoulders ahead, but it didn't breathe. It slowly crawled away from the door, almost crab-walking, disjointly, its way out by the wall. Needless to say, I was too traumatized to catch any sleep that night. The timely, gentle knocking on the mirror, repeating after every few minutes, didn't help either. My back turned to it. I didn't dare to look back. I felt like I was being watched. The following morning, Saturday, was nothing less of getting caught in a pile of unread messages. Maria still didn't reply back. I was deeply concerned. However, my messaging app was now flooded with dozens of messages from countless familiars. Friends and family miles away, all asking the same thing in 100 different tones of annoyance, confusion, and fear. What the hell was I doing at their house last night? My cousin in Boston. "Drew, if this is your idea of a joke, it's just not funny. You scared my kids." An old college roommate 40 miles over. "Dude, you good? What's going on? I won't mind you dropping by at all, but breaking in and running away is not funny." A message followed by paragraphs of stuff he claimed I did. Many more messages. I tried to deny them all. It wasn't physically possible for me to be at so many different places at once. One of my friends sent me a small clip of demanding explanation. It was a shot from her front door and pressed against the narrow glass panel.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times. Or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months. Or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
The side was my face. The sclera of my eyes were stark, unnaturally white, just like I had seen in the mirror previously. A jarring grin etched to my face, eyes that followed the camera, just standing, observing. By the end of the clip itself, from the opposite angle, I disappeared into thin air. I was no longer there. I spent the rest of Saturday and Sunday in a frantic haze, calling and texting everyone who had contacted me. I tried to plead that I was not guilty, begged for forgiveness, even reasoned so far as to make a group chat and listing out all the messages I received to show how it was just not possible for me to pull all of this in one night. I gained some trust after that, but the question still remained unresolved. How? Who? Or what? By Sunday night, defeated and utterly alone, I did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed the thickest, mustiest blanket from my closet, the one I had never used, and just threw it over the mirror, tucking the edges behind the frame until the entire thing was shrouded. For the next 3 days, I got no more calls or texts. No more uncanny reports of me standing outside their windows at night or breaking in. Was it some bizarre shared illusion? Maybe covering the mirror had worked. Maybe it was over. Maybe. Last night I almost slept through the night for the first time in a week. However, I was jolted awake by a sound from the corner of my bedroom. A soft thump followed by the sound of heavy fabric slithering to the floor. My blood ran cold. I sat up in bed, tense, only to see the blanket was off the mirror now. However, my face looked disoriented, eyes seemed to twitch, and an uncanny grin curled my lips in the latest reflection. I wasn't making any faces. Just then I heard a sharp chime, the doorbell, a single, sharp, deliberate press. My phone buzzed, a motion alert from the smart doorbell, and there it was, my own face, warped by the wide-angle lens staring directly into the camera. That awful stretched grin plastered across its features. It wasn't moving, just waiting, yet again patiently. I didn't dare to get up and open the door. The ringing picked up pace, almost as fast as one of those vintage iron alarm clocks. A frantic metallic kill that vibrated through the walls. As I got up to examine the corridor that led to the living room, the shadow figure perched at its end, a featureless silhouette blocking my only way out. As soon as I had acknowledged it, the ringing stopped. The silence that followed was somehow more worse. Then I heard it again, that soft, rhythmic knocking coming from the mirror right behind me. I turned hesitantly, and there was my reflection, anticipating this moment. Grinning, its eyes almost protruding from its skull, it was posed as if on the verge of leaping right through the glass. I had enough of this. That was not my reflection, just something pretending to be it. I picked up the heavy metal lamp from my nightstand. The base was solid, iron, cold, and unforgiving in my strong grip. The moment my fingers closed around it, the shadow at the end of the hall surged forward at an unnatural pace. I had a split second, no time to think, only to act. I spun and hurled the lamp with all my strength at the grinning face in the mirror. The shriek of tortured glass was instantaneous. The mirror didn't just break, it exploded. A concussive blast of force and glittering shrapnel burst outward. I threw my arms up, but it was useless. The force tripped me back against the bed as 1,000 hot needles dug into my arms, my face, and my chest. The noise died, replaced by a high-pitched ringing in my ears. I lay there gasping, the coppery taste of blood in my mouth. The air smelled of ozone. Slowly I pushed myself to a sitting position. My bedroom was a disaster. A carpet of glittering razor-sharp shards covered everything. The wall was empty. The shadow in the hallway was gone. It was over. A wave of painful, profound relief washed over me. It had to be over. My rage gave way to a throbbing, aching reality. Looking down, I saw dozens of deep, bleeding cuts on my skin. A long shard of glass was embedded in my forearm. After a moment of calm, clear thought, I carefully wrapped my arm in a towel, grabbed my keys, and drove myself to the ER. Hours later, stitched and bandaged, I finally stumbled back into my apartment. The exhaustion was bone deep. I didn't feel like sleeping in my bedroom anymore. It was a mess. I didn't feel safe either. I just locked the front door, fell into the couch in my living room, trying to rest myself. Painkillers dragged me down into a drowsy, dreamless haze. I was finally safe. I don't know how long I slept, but as my consciousness started to surface abruptly from my slumber, I felt something coldly familiar. That sense of being watched. My eyelids felt heavy as lead, but I forced them open one last time before drifting off completely. And there, standing perfectly still in the darkness of the corridor to my room, was a familiar wedge of shadow shaped like a person, though it was gone in a blink. I don't really know what made it stay, but I fear it's not leaving anytime soon. This one is under PH Horror Stories. Weird 711 by user both-illustrator 6066. Hi, it's my first time sharing my story here on Reddit. 2023 Nung Nextcation Kami Ing Beef Posai Isang Kondo near sa Megamall. Yeah, I'm not gonna read this. We did one of these last night and it just made me feel like I was crazy. Two-sentence happiness. User Nessie International. I found a photo in my phone of me sleeping, even though I lived alone. Then I laughed and shouted, "Grandma, you got me," as her visiting ghost drifted down from the ceiling to hug me, still seeing her 25-year-old grandson as a 4-year-old boy she once tucked in. Okay. Weird Dream Booth by user MSNINAM. Miss Nina? Starbucks Dream.
You won't see the engineer that slams the Nissan Rogue's door 13,920 times, or the corrosive chamber that simulates 15 years of life in 5 months, or the Rogue heat-baked for over 300 combined hours. What you will see is a vehicle that can take punch after punch and keep rolling. Nissan, #1 in new vehicle quality among mainstream brands by J.D. Power. We put it through the worst, so you get its best. For J.D. Power 2025 U.S. Initial Quality Study Award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. Awards based on 2025 model year. Newer models may be shown.
I dreamt I went to Starbucks to buy thistle tea for my daughter who was experiencing bad period cramps. This Starbucks was near a shopping plaza for a hotel. The hotel was full of librarians attending a conference. Anyway, surprisingly, the Starbucks had a very extensive loose-leaf tea bar. I asked the barista for thistle tea, and she said they had it and it was self-serve. I guess I looked confused because she said she would do it for me. While waiting, I explored the shop. They had a lot of gift items and provided gift wrap. They were pretty busy and it seemed I was waiting a long time. The barista handed me a pretty wrapped box. I continued to wait and finally asked the barista for my order. She said it was in the box. I told her I needed it in a cup so my daughter could drink it. She said she would fix it, and then I woke up. I googled thistle tea, and it is not for period cramps. Honestly, don't know where that even came from. Any ideas why I would dream something so odd? I don't know, but just reading about dreams makes me want to crawl into bed. And this one is from Reddit Strange. User Fluffy-Cut-3777. Can ghosts knock on doors or what? Last night I fell asleep on the couch and was woken up by knocking on my front door. I am a female living alone in an apartment building. The knocking was around midnight. I got up and heard one more knock, then went to look in the peephole and nobody was there. I was terrified and quickly made sure the door was locked. It wasn't, which is stupid of me since I usually do this as soon as I get in. I went into my room shaking and crying and finally fell asleep with the help of my cat's protection. My building has cameras, so I got them checked the next day, and there was nothing except my neighbor coming home. She's a really nice lady with a disabled son who has never bothered me. I don't know if I'm comforted or more disturbed now. Reddit Glitch in the Matrix. This is by user Western Downtown 4083. Time skip, time gained, not lost. I travel back and forth across the country a lot, from West Coast to Midwest. Always go the same route, stop at the same stops. Been doing so for a little over a decade. Leave at 10 a.m. from West Coast and arrive the third day in the late afternoon, 5 to 7-ish each time. On one trip from west to east, I was a day-and-a-half drive away from my destination. Stopped at my usual gas station to fill up and call ahead and let people know I was on schedule. Got back in the vehicle and got back onto the interstate. A few minutes later, I pass a sign that has the name of my destination on it, and my thought was, how have I made this trip this many times and never noticed there's another town with my town's name? A couple minutes past that sign and I see off-ramps for a city ahead, my city. As this was the second day of my 3-day trip, somehow I gained more than 24 hours. I pulled into my destination and my friends were shocked. I have no missing gap of memory. The phones, so I did place the call in Nebraska, and it was 40 minutes prior to me pulling into my destination. Corroborated by friend's phone. The math says I would have to be driving over 300 miles per hour nonstop, which obviously I wasn't. I have searched for an answer for a couple of years now. Only thing I can find is about people missing or losing time. Even AI can't find me anything on gaining time. It happened once more months later on the trip from east to west. There's a town sign that when I see it I know I have 2.5 hours to go and I'm done with the drive. I pass the sign and not 5 minutes later I'm pulling into town. Again, no gaps in memory and no logical explanations. Hasn't happened since that trip. I've made this trip roughly 100 times or more. These instances are not the only illogical or improbable or impossible things I've witnessed. Hoping that someone has seen or heard of this before. Anyone with any thoughts as to what occurred would be helpful and appreciated. Well, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but there have been several times when I've been driving to an appointment or driving to work or whatever, and I still have like 10 or so minutes to get there, and all of a sudden I'm 5 minutes out. And I just call them time warps. to where you just travel to your destination quicker for some apparent reason. I don't know. It never seems to happen when you really need it to, though. If you're running late or whatever, you always get behind the slowest person on the road, I swear. I do declare. And this is Reddit Unexplained by user Hectors550. Heard a laugh. I'm not sure why I'm barely saying anything, but back in late 2020, my lady and I were spooning in bed just on our phones like around 1 or 2 in the morning. When from behind me, as I sleep on the edge, I hear a leprechaun laugh or like playful creature. Like a cartoon or leprechaun horror movie laugh. No, the TV wasn't on. I don't own anything that could possibly make that laugh, but both my girl and I heard it. But it was also a one-time thing. Never heard it again. Till this day, we still talk about it. Whoa. There's a thing that says, "What is it?" My grandparents passed away, so my family has been cleaning out their house. This dagger was found. Anyone know what this is or where it came from? It kind of looks like a Satan worshiper sort of dagger thingy jigger. Okay, so somebody looked it up, and this one is much cleaner than the one that these guys have. And nights like this, _27, do not clean the varnish or tarnish or anything off of this blade, because if you do, you're going to take down the value. It's just like a coin. If you have a really old, expensive, rare coin and you want to clean it up so it looks prettier, you're actually diminishing the value. But CatMom921 actually found it, and it's an antique ram's head blade, fighting knife, dagger. You could tell it was totally antique. Yours just needs some polishing. Do not polish it. I do maths stat analysis. Take what I say with a grain of salt, as I'm not some kind of old knifey spoony specialist. My initial observation led me to think that it looks like a relatively basic and modern construction. It doesn't really match any iconography I'm familiar with. The blade looks very basic, and the way the metal kind of blends into the pseudo wood. My initial thoughts are that this is some kind of 70s, 80s fantasy production or merchandising set. I notice in your picture the corner of what I'm taking to be the set's leather carrying pouch, which, judging from other accompanying pics of the online auction of the same blade, and the fact that it's relatively modern and not shaped or built for the blade itself, suggests to me that it's more mass market consumable. Okay, thanks for your input. Reddit Alien. User Superb Nerdy Art of TW. Seeing a xenomorph in broad daylight is not great. I don't know. I mostly enjoyed Alien Earth, but I feel like the xenos in it always look so fake and rubbery. Man, I'm gonna have to unjoin this alien thing, because it's really letting me down. I do not want to be part of a group that is about a show, but not legitimate stuff. Like, okay, scary stories or whatever is fine, but I don't want to read about a show and what people think about a show. Reddit mystery. 31-year-old Ben Tyner mysteriously vanished from the ranch he managed on January 28, 2019. More than a full day after he was last seen, his horse was discovered wandering on her own 15 miles away. Ben has never been found. Oh, there he is with his dog. Ben Tyner, 31, was last seen on January 26, 2019. On the ranch he managed near Merritt, British Columbia. A little over a full day later, an experienced tracker and hunter came across Ben's horse, wandering in the wilderness around 15 miles from Nicola Ranch. Bunny was in full tack, but one of her reins was broken. It took Robinson approximately 20 minutes to catch the mare, who appeared to be very nervous although she had no injuries. Ben Tyner himself had vanished. There was no sign of him in the area in which his horse was found. Uncharacteristically, Ben had neither told anyone he was leaving nor took his beloved dog, Hugh, with him. He didn't take his wallet or cell phone with him either. Multiple searches would be carried out, but no trace of the missing cowboy materialized. 2 years later, authorities announced their belief that he had been the victim of homicide, though no suspects have been named. What really happened to Ben Tyner? Ben Tyner, the oldest of 2 sons. Ben Tyner was born August 25, 1987, in Florida to parents Jennifer and Richard. The Tyner family soon moved to Wyoming and started their own cattle farm in Laramie. From a young age, Ben enjoyed working on the ranch. Described as a gentle giant, Ben was kind and helpful, with a love of books and the outdoors. His younger brother Jack said, honest as they come, just pure soul. He wasn't the kind of guy who would get into any trouble or cause any trouble. He is always there for anybody. He would help anybody for whatever they needed. That is the kind of guy my brother was. He attended Tarleton State University in Texas, where he studied animal production and was a member of the school's ranch horse team. He also worked with teams at schools like Texas A&M and the University of Wyoming. Following his time at the university, he traveled to places like Nevada, Idaho, Montana, Canada, Mexico, and Russia, working on ranches along the way. In 2018, he became the manager of Nicola Ranch, located near Merritt, British Columbia, Canada. By all accounts, he was doing well in his position there. Ben's mysterious disappearance. On the afternoon of Saturday, January 26, 2019, Ben was spotted riding Gunny. This wasn't the last sighting of him, however, as is sometimes reported. He was accounted for that night on the ranch after he was done horseback riding, which would mark the final confirmed sighting of Ben Tyner. No one knew he was missing initially. It wouldn't be until Monday, when Hunter Ken Robinson found his horse, people on the ranch would become aware of his disappearance. Whatever took place from Saturday night until early Monday morning remains a mystery. Robinson discovered Gunny around 5:30 a.m. on a logging road off Highway 97, roughly 15 miles away from the ranch, in full tack with a broken rein. It took me 20 minutes to get him because he was pretty jumpy. Something happened to him. He only had one rein, but I caught him and tied him up to a tree. Robinson made an odd observation about the scene. He was adamant that aside from his own tracks and those made by Gunny's pacing, there were no other tracks, human or horse, leading either to or away from the site, which perhaps suggests that whatever happened to Ben didn't occur there, in which case it's unclear how Gunny got to the area or who might have released her there. Gunny was soon confirmed to be Ben's horse, and a search for him began. Tammy Strea, Ben's co-worker, said something might have scared it, the horse, but there's no blood, no spur marks, no scratches. It's his horse, and it's a gentle horse. It's notable that Ben hadn't notified anyone that he was planning to go for a ride, as this was highly uncharacteristic behavior for him. His dog Sue was still in his home as well. This was another strange detail, as Ben was known to take his dog everywhere with him. Trey continued, "None of this is adding up. It's a flipping mystery. It's so horrible, none of us have papers left. We're worried sick." No one on the ranch seemed to know where Ben Tyner might be. Extensive search commences. Law enforcement soon began canvassing the area in and around where Gunny was found for the missing man. From there, they widened the search and were joined by dozens of search and rescue teams from locations like Chilliwack, Shuswap, Okanagan, Nicola Valley, and Surrey, as well as members of the lower Nicola India Band. Search dogs, drones, helicopters were utilized as well. Additionally, the Tyner family traveled to British Columbia to help look for him. Merritt or CMT Constable Tracy Dunsmore. There's still some question as to how he got up here and whether someone drove him up with a truck and trailer. We haven't located that person yet, so we are looking for that information. So yeah, I would like to finish it, but we just don't seem to have the time, I'm sorry to say. But yeah, I hope he's found. It seems to have been quite a long time since he has gone missing, which, I don't know, makes me think something happened to him somewhere else and someone took his body and dumped it somewhere that wouldn't even make sense, as it's not pertaining to or near this property. But anywho's, boys and girls, thank you so much once again for hanging out with me tonight. Thank you to all of my friends on We Are Paradox Media's Facebook, Spreaker, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and wherever else you may be listening on the Omniverse tonight. I had a wonderful time, and I can't wait to do it again tomorrow night when we'll be doing trippy TikToks with me, TessaTNT, unless something else comes up. Don't forget, fam, we are all in this together. Together we make the world a bit better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there is no us. Please, 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 if you have the means and you enjoy or believe in what I'm doing here, or even if hanging out with me makes you feel better or happy, please sling or fling whatever change or green you can my way. You can send check or money order to PO Box 663, Bayford, Colorado 81122, Cash App $TessaTNT, PayPal at TessaTNT, Venmo at Tessa-Thomas-Peterson, SON, Google Wallet or Google Pay at Tessa.N.Thomas30@gmail.com. Until next time, nighty night, love and light, have a wonderful rest of your evening, a wonderful beginning to your weekend, and I will see you back here, same crazy time, same crazy place. Come on, take care of my ear.